The answers that you seek lie buried away in your childhood. I know that sounds a little cryptic, but I'll be talking about that and a little bit more in this video. Hello, my name is Turk, and today I'm trying a bit of a different intro. Here on my channel, we talk about all things autism and science and spirituality and gaming and crafting and the weather, whatever comes to mind, really. And this is kind of just my little corner to talk about things that interest me and discuss some subjects both serious and not. So today, I want to talk with you all about inner child healing and kind of the importance of that in your healing journey, and how that time of your life can be a large source of a lot of the traumas and difficulties that you might be dealing with today. So inner child healing, if you haven't heard of it, is a part of what is just called inner work or inner healing. It is, to put it simply, taking time to look back at your wounded inner child, your wounded inner younger self who, for various reasons, through their upbringing, through their environment, through society as a whole, have kind of been left in a wounded, hurt state. And I wanted to do this video to both illustrate the importance of connecting with that version of yourself that has been wounded, as well as just illustrating how some things that you just don't think are a big deal might be a big deal. Because you have the quintessential, if you think of someone who's traumatized in the past, you might think of someone who is physically abused or or something along those lines. And yes, while of course those overt cases are definitely very traumatic and also need to be eventually dealt with gently, there are just many ways that we get screwed up as a kid, and we just don't even realize it. I think a lot of people end up not doing this work or even thinking to think in this direction or look in this direction because they one, these things do get repressed, but two, just because they think, oh well, my childhood wasn't that bad. I wasn't, physically abused in some way. When it can really manifest in a lot of ways, and it can manifest in a lot of ways that weren't intentional, like someone causing intentional harm to you. It was just some bad stuff that happened. I want to give an example of this within myself of something that just was, in retrospect, was very huge. But just for most of my life, I was like, oh, well, that was kind of annoying, I guess. But, it was a thing. It happens to a lot of people, like, whatever. I was very much in the camp of like, well, at least I wasn't hit, beyond some questionable corporal punishment discipline. But, I never had black eyes or anything. But, yeah. So one of the things growing up with me and my family was we moved around a lot, like a whole bunch, and it was almost every year. Like it was uncommon for me to stick in the same school for more than a year. I did have a record of 3 years, a 3 year span was my highest record, and it was like fifth, sixth, and seventh grade. And then I managed another 2 years from 11th to 12th grade. And every other year it was pretty much just like move. And I was always like, well, this is, that was kind of a thing, but like, whatever. Um, but and I know it's even understood psychologically, from, the well-being of child. It is understood that like, oh, you should only do like one or two major moves if at all possible, for a child, and if you have to do more, you need to address this. You need to address this psychologically. You need to address this. It needs to be addressed and talked about. And also, real quick, I know some like weird focusing is going on. I've tried some new camera things, but I guess it's not working out. But oh well, I'll work on it next time. So I apologize if there's like dimming going on. Anyways, so yeah, That sort of thing needs to be addressed, and it wasn't within me at all for any of us in the family. And still, it was something that I was thinking like, well, that's not there. There's a lot of worse things that could happen to you, but kind of looking back at it from the perspective that I had, when I realized this, and like I was in a place where I really wasn't, where I was struggling with a lot of things. Looking back, I was able to realize like, oh no, this actually was kind of a source of a lot of trust issues, a lot of commitment issues, a lot of like, even after I'd moved, out on my own, I ended up moving like every year beyond that. Like that pattern continued, and I was never really ever able to settle down in the place. Like I never really made my space my own. I never decorated it. I'd always watch on TV how people would like have posters and all this stuff up, and I was like, wow, that's neat. That'd be neat to have like a place long enough to really do that with. And I continued that into my adulthood where I just didn't really ever settle down in a place in my head. I was just like, well, I'm going to be moving at some point, and inevitably we would end up moving for one reason or another. Um, and it occurred to me too that this was kind of big for young Turk and the relationships that they formed. Like moving over and over again, it was constantly a case of get to the end of the year and then we'd have the going away party at school to say goodbye because I was leaving. So we'd do a little thing, and those people I never saw again. I never heard from again. We didn't have internet. We didn't have easily accessible internet. We didn't have texting. We didn't have emails. We didn't have anything like that. Year after year, it was as if that whole class of people were just dead to me because they were gone. Those connections were just gone, and they weren't coming back. And it occurred to me what sort of huge impact that had on me. Not only did I not see any place as a place to settle down, it was just another place we were staying for a period of time, but people became that way too. Um, I I think and it started so early too, even in first grade, second grade, that like I'm sure I wasn't able to process or comprehend it completely. I don't remember exactly how it felt even. Um, it was just something that's I didn't quite have the right frame of reference for, but I know it did impact me, and it did impact my relationships that way too. It was something where just like, oh, these people are people I'm gonna get to know, but then they're gonna be gone, so then that kind of sucks. So maybe just don't get too close to people because they're just gonna be gone again, and uh, that sucks. So I'd just rather not get close to them because when they leave, I don't want it to hurt as much. Um, yeah. So like it was realizing that like to realize all of that, it suddenly became a lot more apparent to me that as to how big of a deal that this thing was. Something that I thought was just like, oh well, at least it's not at least it's not something else, and like it wasn't that bad. But like looking back on it, I was able to realize that for me, yes, it was, and I think for most anyone it would be. And I know, um, incidentally, I have a lot of friends who have experienced the same thing, and I think it may have affected them similarly. Similarly, um, but it's just something that, without really looking back at it and evaluating it, I wasn't able to determine how much it had affected me and what ways it had affected me. Looking back and seeing, I was able to realize the ways that it was affecting the ways I would connect with people. And it was affecting the way I connected with the spaces around me. And only in going back and unearthing those things and learning more about them and how they affected you, can you make changes. I know there are some that out there that say, rather humglum and begrudgingly, that, oh, the wounds that were dealt as children and growing up we'll never truly heal from them, and we're just going to be carrying those crosses and that weight until, the day that we die, and we just have to survive and get along. I don't believe that, and it's not my experience. I believe that inner child healing is possible. It is reconnecting. It is reconnecting and telling that version of yourself that was younger that things are okay now, that we have learned from these things, we have grown from these things, and we also are our own advocate and our own strength now. I'm an adult. I can't control what happens to the people in my life. I can't force them to stay with me. I can't force outside forces from taking them away from me. It's unlikely that all of my friends would be taken away from me in one fell swoop like they were when I was a kid. But it's possible. They could all be on a bus a bus to a friend convention, and the bus could crash, and they're like, "Oh, there goes all my friends." It's very unlikely. Um, but there are, in looking back, in working with that wound, and that younger version of yourself, and the things that happened to them, um, you can reassure that version of yourself that we're stronger now. We've grown from this, and we've learned from it, and we're going to use all of that to do our best to make sure we're okay, and that as a kid, I wasn't able to realize exactly what was happening. I couldn't advocate for myself. It's something that was psychologically known, but my parents didn't really have access or knowledge or the ability to act upon that themselves. And I don't hold that against them at all. I get that it's difficult to raise children, let alone 4 kids. But I know now, and I know what a big deal it was for me now, and I'm able to acknowledge that, and I'm able to express that to that version of myself, and I'm able to tell that version of myself that it's okay now, that we're okay now. And I like to look at healing too as, I don't remember the name of it, but there is a Japanese technique for like restoring broken ceramics and pots and the like, where they use gold to like replace the seams. I really should learn the name of that technique because I love that process. And the final product just looks stunning because it's just the original ceramic, and then it's got just like a whole interlacing of these golds, like where the cracks are, and through this process, those pieces that are repaired are actually stronger at the repaired parts than the original ones in the first place. If it were to break again, it's going to break in those ceramic pieces, and the gold's going to be the thing that holds up in the end. And I like to look at healing like that. Like we grow through what we go through. And I stole that from someone. I don't often quote, but I don't usually quote because I can't remember who to attribute it to. I got that from another YouTuber, Heinz, who I think got it from someone else. But I really like it. You grow through what you go through. And this is the, if you have looked into inner child work, inner work, also shadow work, which this is very closely related to. If you have done any reading or heard those terms before, Carl Jung talks about this a lot. That there are golden nuggets hidden within our past, hidden within our pain and our unhealed parts and our traumas. And I found that oftentimes that is the strength that we gain and the knowledge that we gain and the experience that we gain from those things, as well as some other things that are kind of hidden in those depths. I'm not going to go too much into that right now. That's a whole nother video in itself. There are any number of people that have already done the subject. I do want to do my own take on it someday. In this video, I just wanted to talk about encouraging you to take that look back into your past, into your childhood, and to more seriously consider the ways that it affected who you are now. We are like sponges as children, and we take in so much more than anyone might consider, and that impacts us so much more than I think most people consider. If you're curious about techniques on how you might do this, again, that is a subject of its own. That is a whole nother video of its own. I would also say that there's no one size fits all. There's no cure. There's no prescribed cure or treatment for this. If you are curious about the subject, just start Googling inner child work, inner child healing, and you will assuredly find resources that tell you of techniques that you can work on. Personally, I have found that reconnecting and connecting more with the things that child Turk liked to do the most: drawing, crafting, creating, playing, singing, dancing, have all been great ways for reforging that hurt connection with my younger self, giving them space to feel like they are safe now and able to be happy and all happy and have fun and feel okay. As well as journaling and tarot and some other things. There's a whole list of things, and I'm sure you'll find something that you're called to if you do feel called to do this sort of work. Yeah, so I think that's about all I wanted to say in this video. I kind of just wanted to create something to encourage you to look this way if you hadn't already before. And I will say it's a process that takes time. Healing in any form takes time. It's not something to be rushed. It's not something that can be rushed. So be gentle with yourself, all versions of yourself, past, present, and future. Just be gentle, be patient, be understanding, because more than anything, I think that's the thing that a lot of our child selves need the most, is just a bit of understanding, and we can give that to ourselves. Right. So just want to talk about that and my own example of of one major experience with it. Of course, there's lots of things in my past, as I'm sure there are with yours. If you do find yourself down this way, or that you've already been doing this work, I wish you the best in doing so. And just be easy on yourself. That is all for this video. I appreciate you listening. If you have any thoughts or comments or experiences of your own that you'd like to share down in the comments, go for it. That is all. So thank you. I hope wherever you are that you're safe, well, and happy. And until next time.